want to see. And by contrast, that comment that you made a week ago that appeared to take black voters for granted, in light of these horrible events of the last week, it's important for black voters to know, which leader are you going to be?
The leader I've always been. I apologized immediately for responding to Charlamagne, who was baiting me. And if you looked at that film, you'll see I was smiling at him. And I was referring to him. I wasn't referring to all African Americans, but I should have never said it.
So what you heard there was Joe Biden on CNN yesterday with Don Lemon, and he's still blaming Charlamagne Tha God for baiting him, quote unquote, into the "you ain't black" comments. That it's really Charlamagne Tha God's fault. But that's not what happened. 100%. If you watch that interview, you know that's not what actually happened. Charlamagne Tha God never baited Joe Biden. Charlamagne Tha God had the gall to give a tough but fair interview to Joe Biden around issues facing the black community. 100%. That's all it was. It wasn't an ambush. It wasn't an interview designed to make Biden look bad. It wasn't an interview designed to get Biden angry or get a rise out of Biden. It was a tough but fair interview with tough but fair questions. But for Joe Biden, that's baiting him. And that shows that Joe Biden really does feel entitled when he goes into certain media spaces, that he expects, he demands, he deserves a softball interview with softball questions. He doesn't see it as an interview. He doesn't see it as journalism. He sees it as public relations video, as a glorified campaign ad. And that's not what that was. And it's not what it should be. And Joe Biden basically saying Charlamagne Tha God baited me ignores what was really happening. Charlamagne Tha God suggested that Joe Biden needs to do more for black voters. He needs to consider strongly picking a black female vice president and picking someone like Amy Klobuchar. And this is before the past week happened. And we really got a sense for how this week is partially due to Amy Klobuchar's inactions. Picking her would be a massive, finger to the black community and would disengage the black community. He also said that it's not enough to just be not Donald Trump and expect our votes. And he also said that maybe Joe Biden personally needs to do more regarding his record for black voters. And whenever he suggested that, Biden responded with, defensiveness or aggressiveness or both. He basically scoffed at the idea that he could have done anything more for black voters, that he wasn't the greatest thing ever for black voters, even though his 1994 crime bill is one of the worst things in generations to happen to that community, even though he, as a man, enacted bankruptcy policies that disproportionately affected marginalized communities, even though, as a man, he has all over the world always prioritized American empire over people of color. This is not a person with a good record on, racial justice. He's not. He might not have the worst record, but by no means does he have the best record, within his own party or generally. He just doesn't. And so Biden had to lie out of anger to be defensive to Charlamagne. And that's where the "you ain't black" comments come from. It's the fact that Charlamagne Tha God dared suggest that you are not automatically entitled to our votes. And Biden says it's a joke, but I don't read it as a joke. Biden was using a joking tone. He was using a comical tone. But Biden 100% meant what he said, which is that if you are even considering voting for the other guy over me, you are not black. He was not making a joke. He was not only referring to Charlamagne. He was 100% taking black votes for granted and had to walk it back. That's the simple truth. And he's blaming Charlamagne Tha God for his own mask being ripped off by his own hand. Charlamagne had nothing to do with it. He was just asking good questions and doing good journalism. Better journalism than I've seen from almost any mainstream media outlet. And Biden couldn't handle it because Biden, when he's actually put in a situation where he has to answer questions and he can't rely on the teleprompter, is utterly, utterly exposed. The dementia, the cognitive decline, what we've talked about on this channel. So you're going to see these continued half-assed apologies by Joe Biden. Oh, I'm sorry for what I said, but it's not my fault I said it. That's not an apology. And at this time, with what's happening in Minneapolis, with what happened in Central Park, with what's happening everywhere in the United States, this is not the man for the moment. He's just not. You know, there needs to be an alternative to Donald Trump. Under no circumstances can Donald Trump remain president. Biden is better than Trump, as bad as Biden is. But let's be clear that this is not the man to lead America to justice in this moment. And whether it's his mental weaknesses, whether it's his bad historical policies, whether it's his bad contemporary policies, or whether it's his ability to take responsibility when he does things that harm marginalized communities, he is not a leader that America needs right now.